Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around, we are playing as the Norscans, of course, against the Forces of Chaos on the Waldenhof. So, for this match, I did want to make use of the Frostworm, and this is a unit that, honestly, I don't see very much of online. I don't think I've seen a single Norscan player since the patch came out use it. I myself haven't actually used it since the patch came out either, and I really thought it was a shame and really wanted to try it out. So either way, this composition was kind of built around using it against Chaos. I figured, with breath attacks, I could use it to melt enemy infantry, because honestly, even with various armor sundering shenanigans, Norscan infantry is weaker than Chaos infantry, especially Chosen and even Chaos warriors, really, from a cost efficiency standpoint. And the Norsca kind of does rely on its monsters to do a lot of the heavy lifting there, and I figured, the Frostworm could help against Chosen, those sorts of units. It causes fear and terror, so I can get nice little rear charges and really disrupt enemy formations, break them up, hopefully force them to rout. It causes AP damage, and it does have this Frostbite mechanic, so I figured, if my opponent tries to kite me a little bit with some fast units, I can get the Frostworm close, get that Chilling Aura going, or I can hit him with Frost Breath, hit him with Frostbite, get on top of the Chilling Aura, and then between the two attacks, you reduce enemy speed by 72%. It's absolutely ridiculous. The Frostworm has the single strongest speed debuff combo in the game. It's absolutely crazy. And it lasts as long as the Frostworm's attacking you, essentially, unlike say a smoke bomb or something like that. So you basically have a permanent smoke bomb effect. It's pretty crazy. So either way, Frostworm is the centerpiece of this army. For my lord, I decided to bring Throg. I think Throg's decent against Chaos, honestly. Now, granted, Chaos is Lord of Fire, which actually my opponent brought here, and that's a serious threat. But Throg is still, it's kind of hard to... He can still trade with anybody short of Kolek, I think. I do think Kolek beats Throg, but otherwise he can trade with almost everybody. He's got good melee stats. He's got Frostbite to slow enemies and keep them in place. A bonus for Large of his own. He's got Foe Seeker, Fight or Die. He's got Regen. And Chaos doesn't have the missile pressure to really punish Throg, so I figured he could be a decent choice. I also did bring a Fimir Balefiend of Fire so that he has a friend. Once again, bringing a little bit of additional armor piercing to the table. I do, like I said in multiple casts before, I do like the Fimir Balefiend, or I prefer the Fimir Balefiend to the Shaman casters because it does have Arcane Conduit. You can see here we do have Arcane Conduit, we've got Cascading Firecloak, and we do have Piercing Bolt of Burning, which I think could be really strong against my opponent's heavy infantry. For my front line, it is dirt cheap. 2 Marauders with great weapons and 2 Marauder Berserkers. So nothing fancy there, but they are backed by Miststalkers, so the Regiment of Renowned Fimir, as well as Fimir with Warriors with great weapons. So we've got some additional Fear and Terror in the mix. We've got some extra anti-large, armor sundering, which will help against, say, Chaos Warriors. It will help them Marauder Berserkers trade a little more fairly, and it also provides me with a little bit of extra anti-large and a little bit of solution if, say, Kolek decides to pile in and go after me. If my opponent brings multiple Shaggoths, something like that, we got some solutions. In the back, Beasts of Tashnar and Warhounds ready to kind of shut down enemy skirmish cap, and we do have 2 units of Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes to harass my opponent and harry his flanks. I figured, once again, a lot of the problem is that how to deal with Chosen, and really these guys are a great tool against Chosen. They've got great AP DPS. Granted, their ammunition capacity is only 12, but for 650 gold, they're pretty cheap. 21 armor piercing, very solid. And you can see here we're going to get a few volleys into my opponent's Chosen. You can see they're at 79-20, and after a single volley, they're down of axes. They're already down about 600 HP. So definitely these Marauder throwing axes are doing a great job. They've dropped these Chosen by over 1,000 HP there. So good work. Now, and if they kill just one unit of Chosen with great weapons and do nothing else throughout the game, with their throwing axes, that's right there basically paying for these 2 units. They're actually more than paying for themselves. So you can see I'm getting a breath attack. I'm basically harassing my opponent's force. His force is very immobile. He decided to go very heavy duty. He brought Archeon with Burning Head, Flaming Sword of Ruin, and what's the other spell there? Cascading Firecloak. You can see the breath attack here, just going down and absolutely melting these poor Chaos Warriors. If we look, you can see they've lost about a third of their HP, and the Chosen lost a little bit as well, about 1,000. And now, unfortunately, Archeon does get a little bit of a hit in there, but we pull back and throw a few axes at him, and he's going to stay away. For my opponent's build, though, pretty heavy duty. Front line of Chaos Warriors, these guys will dumpster Marauder Berserkers, and they'll actually do okay against Marauder Champions, all things considered. Their melee attack and melee defense is not that much worse, same as weapon strength, and their armor's 100. These guys are actually surprisingly decent against Marauder Champions, and Except for champions with great weapons, I'm pretty sure Chaos Warriors will basically beat anything the Norscans put on the table as far as infantry is concerned. They are backed by some Chaos Warriors with halberds, some Chosen with great weapons, which I personally don't think is what you need against Berserk. I think you'd be better off bringing Chaos Warriors Chosen with halberds if you really wanted to go Chosen heavy, but regardless, a single Chaos Warriors with halberds, surprising some anti-large, mammoths of course being nerfed. Apparently, and I've only just found this out on the forums, mammoths also had the way their collision works changed, so they don't work like a chariot, they don't do as much impact damage, so that's part of the reason why they no longer demolish units of infantry as easily. My opponent did bring the Summoner's Rage here, and an Exalted Hero. And the Exalted Hero can imbue fire damage to himself with the Hellfire Sword. He's got Mark of Corn and Foe Seeker. And you can see I'm just chipping away at my opponent's troops, and I'm actually falling back. I fell back a bit with my infantry to force my opponent to come to me, buy myself a little more time to skirmish. In the meantime, over here, and I did want to mention something about Archaon. My opponent did bring Slayer of Kings, and he did bring the Crown of Domination. So he is granting his troops with some immunity to psychology, as well as a huge amount of damage. Against Throg with Slayer of Kings, he's going to be up to like 700, 800 damage. It's going to be ridiculous. Either way, here you can see the Chosen with great weapons slugging out with the Fimir. Unfortunately, the Fimir just overextended and he's getting dumpstered here. My opponent does cast Slingers to Ruin, stand or die. So this area is definitely in a bad spot. On the flip side, though, Throg does pick up Fight or Die, so we're doing quite a bit of hurt. And you can see I'm actually cycling my Marauder Horsemen around the flank. Over here, I get another nice... we're going to get a nice little recharge here with the Frostworm and do quite a bit of hurt. The Chosen with great weapons here do quite a bit of damage. We did manage to breath them a little bit and drop their HP, lower their spirits. And we get a nice little recharge. Actually, never mind. I think this is the Chosen we were beating up before. But either way, we get a nice little recharge in there with the Frostworm, disrupting these Chaos Warriors. And over here, beautiful bombardment, taking off about half this unit of Chaos Warriors, completely demolishing this unit of Chaos Warriors. And Throg, 1v1, even with Slayer of Kings, he'll have an okay fight with Archaon. He'd lose probably in a straight up fight, Throg would, but you know, here with Archaon probably getting his attacks reset, fighting infantry around him, Throg will do a good number on him. So, and you can see Archaon is not having a good time at all here, getting his face pounded in. I cycle my Marauder Horseman around the flank. My opponent has no flank protection, so he's actually going to start taking an absolutely brutal pounding here on the flanks. You can see this Chosen, this one Chosen here with like half a dozen hatchets just sticking out of him, getting pounded from the flank. Another breath attack goes down. I would say roasting the Chosen, but it's more like freezing them. Look at this ugly mug with the split heads. One of the unfortunate realities of this unit is that it is just a reskin, but yeah, it's still cool. We do dive in. Miststalkers are in there, and Throg is now in a very precarious position. You can see my opponent has actually largely crushed my infantry. He does get his free Chain Lightning off with the Summoners of Rage. He got a lovely Burning Head here, incinerating a lot of my Marauder Berserkers. And Throg is on the run. He's being pursued by the Exalted Hero. Archaon did a number on him. He, of course, does have regen. I hit him with a Cascading Fire Cloak, providing him more damage and giving him a little bit of sustainability here. But he is taking a pounding, and you can see my opponent counteracting with Exalted Hero, so kind of a duel of fire magic here. That said, the balance of power is shifting decisively in my favor. Those breath attacks from the Frostworm, roasting 66 units, a lot of those Chosen. Granted, my Fimir Balefeed over here does get crumped by these Chosen with great weapons. You can see these Marauders are not going to hold much longer. The Warhounds are just there as a little bit of a cannon fodder. But, you know, there's still Fimir. There's 2 units of Fimir at two-thirds of their models, at 8 models. The Exalted Hero is getting his face caved in. Archaon swings around and is going to go after Throg and pressure him very, very heavily here, which is a big problem for me. Throg, you can see, is going to start losing HP very, very rapidly. And actually, not that rapidly right now, but I'm pretty sure he takes a meaty hit or two there. You can see about 300 HP going down. The Exalted Hero and big Daddy Archaon there just beating him up. And poor Throg's not having a good day. Over here, the Chosen doing an okay job, so we dive in the Frostworm, get a nice little cycle charge in there. Beasts of Tashnar surprisingly holding their own in this fight, or holding in there, which is a little shocking. I kind of would have expected them to rout. You can see the Chosen separated from Archaon. Arg definitely going to struggle against the Fear and probably the Terror as well. Here I'm using my Marauder Horsemen to scrounge up and run down these Chaos Marauders, making sure these Chosen don't come back. And Throg once again manages to escape, pops Fight or Die, and now Archaon and the Exalted Hero getting peppered down. My caster fled, and I'm probably not going to get him back. But it doesn't really matter at this point. My opponent only has this little blob of infantry, but actually pushing Throg into them, throwing the beasts into the rear. You can see the Fimir there disengaging. And you can see the Frostworm here setting itself up for a nice little Frost Breath, turning these Chaos Marauders. And this was actually just a unit of Chaos Marauders there. Roasting them, and now it's going to be able to GG. The game was going to be over as Archaon's alone. I guess him and his Exalted Hero are alone. We still have a good chunk of throwing hatches left, and that's going to be it. So Pyrrhic victory for the Norscans, and a few things. I was actually very pleasantly surprised with the Frostworm's performance. It only cost 1,700 gold. So it's pretty cheap by Dragon standards. I actually think it's cheaper than a Sun Dragon. It does have a weakness to fire, like a major weakness to fire. It's like 20, maybe not. Maybe it's just 20%. Maybe it's like the built-in 20 or 25%. So maybe it's not that terrible. But it's got a weakness to fire. It's got the breath attack, which honestly did really well in this game. I managed to roast multiple enemy units. Took out a lot of those Chaos Warriors. We took out a lot of Chosen. We were terror routing. Gained a Chevron throughout the course of that game. Honestly, a very valuable unit in its own right there. And I was pretty pleasantly surprised. I think with the nerfs to the Mammoths, I think the Frostworm actually has a bit of a spot in the Norscan roster. As for the rest of the build, honestly, the infantry, of course, is just their scan fodder. They raked in a surprising amount of kills, especially those who got more preferential matchups, but nothing too fancy. The Fimir did pretty well. The Hounds raking a shocking 29 kills, and I'm not even sure what they were fighting. Maybe these Chaos Marauders? I don't know. I wouldn't think it's Chosen, but you never know. Fimir Balefiend getting about 28 kills, most of those probably with that bombardment, and really melted. The fire bombardment is incredibly powerful against Chaos Warriors and Chosen and units like that. And the throwing axe is an immensely powerful unit in this matchup. Normally when you bring these guys, your opponent has some sort of shooting that can just zone you off. Basically every faction outranges Norsca, or almost every faction outranges Norsca. So they're a bit of a risky pick in most situations, but honestly against Chaos, which has these elite heavy infantry, if you don't want to be investing in Lore of Death or something, if you bring, I brought tools to counteract enemy Hounds. I had the Norscan Warhounds, I had the Beast of Tashnor, I had the Frostworm. So if my opponent decided to dive me when he brought a bunch of, say, Poison Warhounds, I could always just shut him down with a Frostworm, breath him, and kind of kite away with the Marauder Horsemen. In fact, if you want to deal with Hounds, if you've got Hounds pursuing you, your Frostworm doesn't even have to land, I think. Its Chill Aura affects them even if it's just above them. And if it's above the Hounds and chilling them, they can't catch Horsemen. So that's right there. It's a pretty powerful thing. So definitely very pleased there. With my opponent's build, interesting choice of the Chosen Grey Weapons. I don't think they're a good choice, personally. I think if you're going for Chosen, against Norsca, bring Chosen Halberds. Norsca has a decent amount. The biggest threats from Norsca are probably going to be their large units, their various Skin Wolf variants. It's going to be their I can't even think. But stuff like the Frostworm, honestly, is a bit of a threat. Mammoths, Fimir, units like that are really what's going to be doing a lot of the damage to you, and you need to be able to get rid of them. Marauder Berserkers, you're not really going to be cleaving through them all that much faster. Like, the one thing these guys will do better against probably is Marauder Champions with great weapons, but I don't think they're going to be that common of a sight. So I definitely don't think Chosen Great Weapons are a good choice. Otherwise, I'd honestly consider just Chaos Warriors Great Weapons. They probably trade pretty evenly with Marauder Champions, so I would have to check the stats, but I'm pretty sure they would. Otherwise, though, cool build. I definitely don't think Chaos Warriors are a bad choice in this matchup. They trade well with all the cheaper stuff. Exalted Hero, interesting choice. It's not something you see every day, but actually, from a niche perspective against Norsca, I could see it working. And actually, this was a really ideal situation against Throg, who's probably going to be a pretty common pick in this matchup. Archaon, once again, a pretty solid pick against Throg, in my opinion. And the Summoners of Rage, not a bad choice just to get extra anti-large in there. I really think one of my opponent's big problems here was that he had absolutely no cover against skirmishers, nothing to defend himself against either my Dragon or my Frostworm or my Marauder Horseman. I think that these three units essentially became his undoing by and large, because he won the frontline fight or would have won it probably pretty decisively if it wasn't for all this harass. Regardless, getting into my opponent, Ivar here. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, any criticisms, anything like that, please share. Any questions, anything like that, please post them down. I'll respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.